Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Recently, it was brought to my attention that the October 2025 issue of Miniature Wargames magazine had an article in it about HeroQuest, so naturally, I took a look. And I'll be honest, I wasn't going to cover it here on the channel. It's basically a homebrew scenario, designed using the original 1989 European rule set. Long-time viewers will know that I don't tend to cover homebrew and unofficial expansions for HeroQuest for various reasons, but this is a magazine you can go and pick up in any good newsagents in the UK or order online, and quite a few people have contacted me asking if I was going to feature it on the channel. So what the heck, let's do this. I should first note this is not Miniature Wargames' first crack at publishing a HeroQuest scenario. Last year I covered an issue that featured a scenario incorporating werewolf miniatures that were free on the magazine cover. This time we aren't getting any free miniatures, but the mission does require an elven bard and a beastman assassin, and the previous issue of Miniature Wargames magazine just so happened to feature a sprue containing exactly those two miniatures from the Dungeons and Lasers range, produced by friends of the channel Archon Studio. Of course, if you don't have those miniatures, you can use anything you have that's similar. In fact, this mission is a great excuse to dive into your miniatures box because there are several new enemy types like Ungors and Minotaurs that replace commonly occurring HeroQuest foes. But we'll get to that. Another thing to note is that, as already mentioned, the author of this article is using the original 1989 European rules. That means there are several differences when compared to the rules for the original American edition, which also happens to be the same rules used by Avalon Hill in their new edition. The biggest problem is that under the original rules, most monsters only had a single body point, and that means you may need to rebalance this adventure if you intend to use the American rules, or else you will risk your heroes getting a bit of a battering. Now, obviously in this video I'm not going to spoil any specifics about the adventure, but there's still a lot to discuss. The plot is simple, and notable for leaning heavily into Warhammer lore. There is mention of High Elves, Ulthuan, the Phoenix Guard, and Chaos. An ally of Mentors, yes, Mentors, has sought her old friend's aid. She is a High Elf noblewoman whose brother has decided to become a bard and travel the world. To make matters worse, he has been bewitched by a sorceress called the Lady Gay, who is trying to discover elven secrets from him. Naturally, the heroes have to go on a rescue mission, but there's a twist. Two actually. First of all, there is a timer. The heroes have just 1 hour of real time to complete the quest. This is a fun idea, but is included for a practical reason. As the author points out, HeroQuest lacks any kind of mechanism to keep the heroes moving, and when playing with younger children, the game can drag. Setting a time limit is a way around that. And okay, that's one way of doing it, but I do take issue with that approach for several reasons. Firstly, while I haven't played this quest, I have looked at the map and studied the encounters, and I don't think anyone could complete it in 1 hour. The adventure spans 2 boards and dozens of combats. Secondly, while a hard time limit can work in some cases, Dungeon Quest for example, I think it could easily lead to an unsatisfying end to a game of HeroQuest, especially if you are using real time rather than counting down a fixed number of turns. Usually I prefer a soft timer. For example, I often use a rule where if no monsters are on the board during Zargon's turn, Zargon takes a skull counter. Every time they have amassed 5 tokens, they draw the top treasure card. Treasure is discarded while hazards are immediately applied to a hero of Zargon's choice. I think something like that is a good way to keep heroes moving without unduly penalising them. But ultimately, I'm not sure the time limit is really necessary here. In the notes to the mission, the author points out that he uses the rules that combine searching for traps and secret doors into a single action, and the rule that the heroes can only search each room once. I use both of those rules myself, and it really speeds things up. Additionally, there is a second twist to this mission that is already going to encourage the players to get a move on. The Lords of the Beastfane are jealous of Lady Gay, and they have dispatched a beastman assassin to kill the elven bard. The assassin enters the board at the opposite side to the heroes and activates like a hero. He is no friend of Lady Gay's and will fight any monsters he meets along the way to complete his mission. This assassin could be controlled by Zargon, in which case Zargon would have to treat it like a role-playing experience with an NPC. However, it would make for an even more exciting game if another player took on this role, creating a tense race where the heroes and the assassin rush to be the first to find the bard. I think that's a really fun idea. I have talked in other videos, possibly my deep dive of Rise of the Dreadmoon, about how it would be fun to have a rival gang of heroes or villains that could pop up in different missions, ambush the players, race them for objectives, or otherwise make a fuss. These could even be characters who are not necessarily evil, who may even be trying to achieve the same goals as the heroes, but who don't agree with the way the heroes get things done. This idea of a beastman assassin is fairly close to that concept, and having another player take on the part to make the game a three-way contest is really solid. I think that's something a good Zargon player could have a lot of fun with. Besides that central premise, I think there are several other interesting elements to this mission, and I thought I would run through them quickly, so even if you don't end up getting this magazine, you might still be able to adapt some of the ideas into your own adventures. The map itself requires 2 boards pushed together, so if you're collecting modern HeroQuest and you have one of the first core sets and the more recent First Light core set, you are all set. If you don't, then you are going to have to make a board or source one from an online seller. Additionally, the map requires a tile overlay measuring 5x6. You could make one, but if you have the Return of the Witchlord expansion, you already have a tile exactly the right size that you can use. The other interesting thing to note is the roster of new enemies introduced for this quest, and their special abilities. Lady Gay has an apprentice with a gas throwing weapon. It hits a target with a 2-dice attack, and then hits all adjacent models with a 2-dice attack. Meanwhile, the Beastman Assassin is immortal. It will respawn within 10 squares but out of line of sight every time it gets defeated. Additionally, it has a kneecap ability that means any enemy passing the assassin is attacked with a single combat dice. There are also 3 enemies that you can swap in for regular enemies. They have the same stats as the enemies they are replacing, and you could use the original base game enemies if you prefer, but they all have a special ability. Goblins can be replaced by Ungors, which attack diagonally. As a replacement for the common orc, which the author repeatedly spells O-R-K rather than O-R-C, there are beastmen. They have a wild charge ability, so whenever they move before attacking, if they cause damage, the target is moved 1 square. Finally, Famirs are replaced by Minotaurs. After a Minotaur has made an attack, if they rolled at least 1 skull, they can make an immediate free attack against a different model adjacent to the first. And that's about it. I could go through all the special rules for the various rooms in the mission, special traps, role-playing encounters, and even a shortcut to mushrooms that can be used to bribe guards. However, I think you get the point. This is ultimately just a homebrew mission put together for this issue of Miniature Wargames magazine, but it does have plenty of interesting ideas packed in there, lots more tools for Zargon, or indeed Mentor, to add to their arsenal. Is the article worth paying the $5.99 cover price for the magazine? Nah, not really, but if you do see this magazine in a store, take a flick through. It has some interesting features on painting and modelling, as well as reviews and scenarios for other game systems besides HeroQuest. Maybe there is some other stuff in there that will interest you as well. But that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.